Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast, here to bring you the latest and greatest gaming news of the past week. So I am your host, Sean Hayes, and this is episode 309. Little bit of a light news week, and some of the news we have is very sad, unfortunately. But some of the news we have is pretty good as well. So hope everyone's had a great week. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a little thrown off because I had done the prep for the show last night instead of earlier this morning, and so yeah, I'm a little thrown off of just like being able to jump right in. But yeah, a bunch of some tabletop news, some gaming news, some epic news, and of course we're going to mention Rachael Lillis. So, and a bunch of a lot of the better news that came out is from Gamesindustry.biz, which when I set up reset up my feed list for figuring out news topics for the podcast, that I hadn't really included it in my mix before, and they are consistently putting out some of the more interesting and better sourced articles and pieces of news among the things that I have. And I will say, Games Radar and GameSpot I tend to not use very much anymore, just because I have a hard time trying to get actual gaming news, and it seems like they just put any sort of entertainment news in their feed. And it's very difficult to pull out what is actually gaming related. For websites that have, games in their title. Seems a little weird. Yeah. So happy Saturday, everyone. And why don't we get into this week's headlines? So first up, Inner Sloth, makers of Among Us, announced a collaboration with Critical Role. So this will include a bunch of Critical Role themed character skins, some Critical Role themed hats, which is kind of just second part of character skins, and all sorts of comical death animations. In their sort of announcement graphic, it seems like they have characters just from campaigns 2 and 3. I don't know if they have any from campaign 1, but it'd be great to see, if they have the full suite there. I mean, they're pretty good, character skins. I think they seem I'm not super familiar with a lot of the character skins. When I was watching people play Among Us, on Twitch, it was mostly just the hats. I don't think character skins had been introduced to the game yet. But these costumes are they're pretty good. Oh no, wait, no, they have. I think it looks like they have Vax maybe, or Vex, one of the two. So in that case, yeah. So then they do have characters from campaign 1 as well. But yeah, in the announcement graphic, they have Molly Mock, Jester, probably either Vex or Vax, or it might be a mishmash of the two. Artagan, looks like Chetney, maybe. Not Laudna, and Fern with associated familiars. So, um, so yeah. So Critical Role and Among Us. Next up, Gamesindustry.biz, speaking of them, reports that the absolutely stellar RPG Baldur's Gate 3 has won a Hugo Award. This one being the second ever winner of the Best Games or Interactive Work Award. And I think Hades won the first one, which was a couple years ago. Nominees for this award included Alan Wake 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So Hugo Awards are given out for like science fiction, fantasy, media. They're not necessarily, Academy Award level of prestige, but they're still pretty prestigious. Yeah, just goes to show. Baldur's Gate 3 is truly a like kind of once in a generation piece of media, I think. And I think it'll be sticking around for some time. We'll see if it sticks. I don't think it's going to be ported to every platform like Skyrim was, but we'll see if like it kind of has the staying power in the public consciousness that Skyrim does. So next up, the Epic Games Store is coming to mobile. So it is, or it has launched on mobile. It's available worldwide on Android devices and on iOS devices in the EU, in the European Union. This is likely due to Epic and Apple's ongoing feud in the United States. But basically, the EU forced Apple to allow Epic to put the Epic Games Store on their devices. So yeah, this is basically this is what the crux of that lawsuit was. Is to allow Epic to put their store on the device so that they can bypass having to pay Apple the 30% fees. For their games. So yeah, we'll see if now that it's launched, if it has any impact on like the current suits that are going through. And it'll be interesting to see like what sort of revenue reports that Apple pulls to try and make it look like this is an absolutely terrible thing, to justify not doing it in the US. But Android users, Google don't care. So or I'd always assumed Google was Android, but I guess is Android open source or something? I don't know. I don't know anymore. Because like it got weird when Google started putting out their own phone. But yeah. I will say, so Epic has had some pretty good like free game offers lately. Like through Twitch, which has been an interesting sort of collaboration there. So that's just a little tidbit, that you could get some free games that way, and then if they're mobile capable, you play them on mobile. yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a limited offering, like just for mobile titles, or if it's going to be like the full Epic Store experience. So yeah. All right, next up, another Gamesindustry.biz reports, unfortunately, the voice actress for Misty, Jessie, Jigglypuff, Goldeen from the Pokemon series, Rachael Lillis, has passed away at 46 years old. So, and Lillis was involved in like a bunch of, I think it was 4Kids TV was the sort of localization studio for a lot of anime. I think she was involved in a lot of projects with that. Not just Pokemon, but so yeah, very sad. So wish her family the best. I know there is a fundraiser that's happening. I don't know if it's to like pay off treatments that she was undergoing, or if it's to like raise funds for research. But I've seen it get shown around social media of sort of auctioning off and selling off sort of merchandise that she was holding on to kind of for this purpose. So so yeah, she was diagnosed with breast cancer back in May, I want to say. And unfortunately it was advanced. So very sad. Truly, taken away too soon. And our to move on, our last bit of news, IGN reports that Boss Team Games is working on 2 new 16-bit platformer titles. One for Halloween and one for Ash versus Evil Dead. This will be in the RetroRealms series. I believe on the podcast last week I had mentioned that there were 2 Halloween games coming, or 2 sort of Halloween themed games coming, and there was speculation of like whether it's going to be another asymmetrical multiplayer type game. If you had told me that these were going to be 16-bit platformers, that would not have been anywhere in the conversation. So I think it's great. And I'll be interested to see what comes out of this RetroRealms series. I mean, it sounds like that they want to do more like collaborations like this. And doing more sort of like classic horror as the chassis for games in this series. So yeah, I'm like, Ash versus Evil Dead is kind of straightforward to do as a platformer. I'm a bit more interested to see how they do Halloween. So yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with asymmetrical multiplayer games. It's just like there's been a big surge of them lately, and especially in the horror genre. So for somebody to come out and say like, now we're gonna do 16-bit platformers is more just like a really big surprise. So yeah. And unfortunately, that kind of wraps up the news for this week. So yeah, very, very short episode today. So, yeah, there really wasn't a lot of of stuff to talk about. So we'll just pop this back up, and we'll do a kind of an extended outro, I guess. So yeah, not a lot of topics to cover this week. And I say that, but like, there's always stuff going on about like Call of Duty or Battlefield or Madden or FIFA or something. To be perfectly honest, that stuff's not very interesting to me because, Battlefield called like annual franchises, that would make more sense of doing games as a service model. And it's always just more like, oh, this one's coming, like, or this next iteration is coming, and it's like, that's not news. There's next iteration always coming. So, or some drama about, payment models or something like that. And it's like, I would rather focus on things that interest me personally that might also be of interest to other people. So that's really the focus of what this podcast does. And unfortunately, that means that sometimes there's really not much going on. Or it ends up being very sort of like dry stuff of like, oh, somebody posted these financial numbers and yada, yada, yada. Or somebody acquired this, or, like a small publisher acquired another small studio. And it's like, like, it's big news for the people in that studio that got bought. But, if it's a studio that isn't really, if neither of the studios are really in the public consciousness, or they've produced games that I've never heard of, it's not really, it's not really going to show up on my radar, unfortunately. So yeah. And it just goes to show, like, and I also have to filter out like movie news and TV news, and that is, as I was saying earlier, like a big problem that I have with like the Games Radar and GameSpot feeds now is like so much of it is just devoted to TV shows or movies, and it's like, where's the gaming news, folks? So yeah. But next month, the new Zelda game comes out. So I'm excited for that. And then Mario and Luigi Brothership comes out in November. So excited for that too. And then, of course, the we'll call it 5.5 Player's Handbook is out in local game stores a month from now, actually. So that'll be a big thing. I think it's a month from now. I have my dates a little mixed up because I'm also starting. I'm running an after-school D&D program. Like that same week. So that'll be a chaotic week, folks. So yeah, I don't know. We're just killing time, chatting about stuff. But I think we've killed enough time. So, if you'd enjoyed this podcast, despite its short length, and you would like to see more content, head on over to my website, 8-bitadventures.com. I have webcomics over there, self-published webcomics. I've got previous episodes of the podcast, other podcasts that I've done. If you want to help support that, the best way to do that is to become a patron over at patreon.com/8bitadventures. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to all of my patrons. Thank you for your continued support. Opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. It has been our opening theme for all technically 310 episodes that I've done. his work is over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. He is like a chiptune artist. So he does some covers and he does some original work. One Up is an original piece. But it's pretty good. And he does like the con circuit. So like if you go to any of like the big, major conventions, there's a chance you can catch him live. So go show him some support. And that wraps things up for this week. So, as always, have fun, everyone. Happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.